You think these are minor moments, barely worth noticing in your busy day. But to your cat's hypersensitive emotional system, each one registers as a micro-rejection that accumulates into genuine psychological harm. That dismissive pattern you don't even realize you have. It's systematically eroding the trust your cat desperately wants to give you. Scientists studying feline stress responses have discovered that cats experience these daily disappointments with the same cortisol spike humans feel during social rejection. And there's one specific action, something 89% of cat owners do multiple times per day, that does more emotional damage than all the others combined. Stay until the end, because that final revelation will completely change how you interact with your cat starting tonight. Your cat is watching you right now, not just looking, watching. They're tracking patterns in your behavior with the same intensity their wildcat ancestors used to predict prey movements. Because unlike dogs, who evolved as pack animals with built-in forgiveness mechanisms, cats descended from solitary hunters who survived by reading subtle environmental signals. That means your cat has inherited a brain designed to notice everything, remember patterns, and make survival decisions based on consistency. And here's what you've missed. Every single day, your cat is offering you connection invitations, the slow blink when you enter the room, the tail question mark as they approach, the specific positioning 3 feet from where you're sitting. These aren't random behaviors, they're deliberate communication attempts. Sophisticated social bids refined over thousands of years of domestication. Your cat evolved these signals specifically for you, creating a bridge between feline and human understanding. But when these invitations go unacknowledged repeatedly, something devastating happens. Your cat doesn't interpret your silence as neutral oversight. Their brain registers it as active rejection, and we know this isn't anthropomorphism because their stress hormone levels prove it. Cortisol measurements in cats experiencing repeated dismissal match the same elevation humans show during social exclusion. You're not failing to notice small moments. You're teaching your cat that their vulnerability isn't safe. But there's one specific dismissal that cuts deeper than all the rest, one that makes your cat question whether you understand them at all. We'll reveal exactly what it is in a few minutes. But first you need to understand why these seemingly tiny moments matter so profoundly. Let's start with the slow blink. When your cat slowly closes their eyes in your presence, they're performing the single most vulnerable trust signal in their entire behavioral repertoire. Think about what this requires. Your cat, a predator whose survival depends on constant vigilance, is deliberately choosing to be blind near you. They're saying, with absolute clarity, "I trust you enough to disable my primary defense system while you're close." Research from the University of Sussex in 2020 confirmed that slow blinks reduce cat stress levels and significantly increase positive human-cat interaction quality. This isn't a cute quirk. It's a deliberate, neurologically costly gesture of intimacy, and when you don't return it, your cat's brain interprets your non-response as a fundamental breach. They offered vulnerability. You responded with indifference. Here's what makes this particularly devastating. Cats only slow blink toward beings they've emotionally bonded with. It's never casual, never random, never accidental. They're making a choice to trust you, and that choice requires overcoming every survival instinct screaming at them to stay alert. Compare this to the human equivalent. Imagine opening up emotionally to someone you love, sharing something that makes you genuinely vulnerable, and having them scroll through their phone without acknowledging what you said. Not once, but every single time you try. The emotional wound isn't the single missed blink. It's the accumulated message that their most intimate gesture means nothing to you. And here's your verification. Start returning slow blinks consistently for 2 to 3 days. Your cat will increase the frequency. They'll slow blink more often, hold it longer, initiate it from farther away. But if you continue ignoring them, within a week they'll stop offering what goes unrecognized. You're not missing acute behavior. You're teaching them that vulnerability gets punished with silence. Now watch what happens when your cat walks toward you. They're not just approaching. They're performing a carefully calibrated ritual rooted in ancient territorial negotiation protocols. Your cat pauses, assesses your receptivity through micro-expressions and body language, advances incrementally, checks again at each stage whether you're welcoming their presence. This entire sequence is happening because cats are simultaneously social and territorial, and they need to confirm that entering your space is safe before committing. But when you interrupt this ritual, when you suddenly move toward them, pick them up mid-approach, or redirect your attention elsewhere, you violate a protocol millions of years old. Feline behavioral studies show that cats experience surprise physical contact, even when friendly, as genuine boundary violation because they never consented to final stage proximity. Watch their stress response: flattened ears, dilated pupils, muscle tension. That's not playfulness, it's alarm. The human equivalent? Someone grabbing you for a hug mid-handshake before you extended your arms. You might tolerate it because you love them, but trust erodes with each violation. And here's why this matters more than obvious aggression. Unpredictable positive violations teach your cat they can't trust their own threat assessment system. If they can't predict when you'll respect their approach protocol and when you'll override it, they can never fully relax. They become hypervigilant even around you, the person they love most, scanning constantly for the moment safety becomes intrusion. Your verification is heartbreaking. Watch for microflinches when you move suddenly near your cat. Those tiny startle responses, even in calm moments, those are learned. Your cat's body is remembering every time their carefully executed ritual got interrupted, every time their consent wasn't requested. You're not showing affection. You're teaching them you're unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Here's something most people never realize. Adult cats don't naturally meow at each other. Kittens meow to their mothers, but adult cats in feral colonies communicate through body language, scent, and occasional hisses or growls. Vocalization aimed at another adult cat is essentially non-existent in the wild. So when did your cat start meowing? When they met you. Research by Dr. Nicholas Nicastro demonstrated that cats developed vocalization specifically to communicate with humans, essentially inventing a language just for our species. And it's not random sound. Cats modulate pitch, duration, and urgency specifically to manipulate human emotional response. They're speaking to you in a language they created because they needed a way to bridge the species gap. Now here's the devastation. When you respond to their meows sometimes but ignore other times with no pattern they can decipher, you're not just being inconsistent. You're breaking a communication system they invented specifically for you. The psychological damage runs deeper than frustration. Operant conditioning research shows that inconsistent reinforcement doesn't just slow learning. It creates anxiety disorders in laboratory settings. Your unpredictable responses are teaching your cat that communication itself is fundamentally unreliable, that expressing need might yield results or might yield nothing, with no way to predict which. This is learned helplessness formation in real time. Imagine speaking to someone who randomly decides whether to acknowledge you, with no pattern you can decipher. Not speaking a different language, choosing randomly whether your language means anything. Not only is it disrespectful, it's crazy-making, and we can measure the harm. Cats in inconsistent response households show elevated baseline cortisol, the stress hormone, even when they're not actively seeking attention. They exist in perpetual uncertainty about whether their voice matters. But here's your solution, and your proof it was harming them. Try responding consistently for just 3 days. Every meow gets acknowledgement, even if it's just verbal recognition. Within 72 hours, your cat will shift from anxious, frequent meowing to confident, purposeful communication. The change proves the harm was real. When your cat brings you a dead mouse, a stunned bird, or even a toy they've captured, you probably feel disgust or confusion. But let me tell you what's actually happening. Your cat isn't giving you a gift in the human sense. They're performing one of the most profoundly significant social integration rituals in feline behavior. Mother cats teach kittens to hunt by bringing them disabled prey, gradually introducing them to predatory skills they'll need for survival. When adult cats bring you prey, they're saying 2 things simultaneously. You're family I need to care for, and I trust you're competent enough to learn what I'm teaching. This behavior only occurs within deeply bonded social groups. Neurological studies using fMRI technology on cats show that successfully provisioning, successfully bringing prey to group members, triggers reward pathway activation in their brains. They experience genuine neurological pleasure from the act of offering. It's not duty, it's joy. So when you recoil, scold, or dismiss their offering without acknowledgement, you're not just rejecting an object. You're rejecting their attempt to fulfill a caregiving instinct that's neurologically tied to bonding and family recognition. The betrayal cuts even deeper when you understand what this behavior costs them. Your cat is fighting their drive to consume the prey themselves to prioritize your needs. They're overcoming hunting instinct suppression, one of their most powerful biological urges, because they've decided you matter more. Compare this to cooking an elaborate meal for someone you love, or a meal that required effort and sacrifice, and having them walk past it without a single word of acknowledgement. Except your cat doesn't understand human squeamishness about dead things. They only register that their sacrifice was met with rejection or disgust, and we can track the consequences. Cats who have gifting behavior repeatedly dismissed show measurable reduction in other bonding behaviors over the following weeks. Less mutual grooming, reduced sleeping proximity, decreased play initiation. You're not just rejecting the gift, you're teaching them you don't recognize them as family, your verification. Next time your cat brings you something, touch the item and provide verbal praise. Within 2 to 3 occurrences, you'll see increased relaxation in their body language and more affection-seeking behavior afterward. They needed to know their care was received. Remember that one action that does more damage than all the others? It's this. Punishing your cat for behaviors they cannot neurologically connect to wrongdoing, yelling after finding an accident hours later, spraying with water for scratching furniture when you've provided no acceptable alternative, scolding for behaviors that are instinctual needs expressed because you failed environmental management. Here's why this transcends every other hurt we've discussed. Cats have a 30-second to 2-minute maximum association window for consequence behavior linking, documented in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior in 2019. Any punishment delivered outside this narrow window is, from their neurological perspective, completely random violence from their trusted protector. You're not teaching, you're creating trauma bonds. The mechanism is devastating. Cats experiencing unpredictable punishment develop chronic stress disorders. Elevated cortisol levels documented up to 3 weeks after a single incident. They show reduced trust behaviors, enter persistent hypervigilance states, and develop anxiety that permeates their entire existence. But here's the cruelest part. They don't leave, they can't leave. They're bonded to you, and they're territorial. So instead, they live in perpetual anxiety with the being they love most, unable to predict when safety becomes threat, when their protector becomes their danger. Let me tell you the profound truth your cat needs you to understand. Your cat doesn't comprehend human concepts of right and wrong. They understand safety and danger, patterns and breaks in patterns, consistency and chaos. When you punish behaviors they can't connect to consequences, you're not correcting behavior. You're teaching them they cannot trust their reality. You become simultaneously their only source of security and their primary source of fear. Think about what this creates. A being who loves you, who's bonded to you, who has nowhere else to go. Be perfect. They need you to be perfect. They need you to be consistent, recognizable, and safe. When you punish what you haven't prevented or communicated, you're not disciplining. You're betraying the fundamental contract of domestication, that in exchange for their wildness you'll be the one predictable, trustworthy constant in their world. Tonight, watch your cat's approach rituals. Return their slow blinks. Acknowledge their voice every single time, even if just to say I hear you. Touch their gifts with respect, even if you immediately remove them. Never punish outside that 2-minute window. These aren't small acts. They're the rebuilding of trust, one recognized gesture at a time. Your cat is still trying. They're still offering those slow blinks, still approaching with that careful ritual, or still bringing you things they've caught, still speaking in the language they invented just for you. The question is, will you finally notice?